ability exists. And I think the Europeans would be in trouble, not so much because of the Russian threat. Again, I think the idea that the Netherlands faces this great Russian threat is simply not true. The real problem that Europe faces in a world where NATO disappears is that the European states would have to provide for their own security, and they would compete with each other. The Germans and the French, the Germans and the Poles, that's what would happen. The Netherlands would think differently about Germany in a world where there's no NATO. The reason that the Netherlands is very happy about NATO's existence and does not want NATO to go away, and this is the reason that people in the Netherlands and people in Europe more generally fear Trump so much, is that they understand that NATO and the American military presence or the American pacifier in Europe takes security competition among European countries off the table. So that's the real threat here. I don't think there's a threat of Russia dominating Europe. I don't think that logic works. First of all, I think the Chinese understand full well that we will defend Taiwan. Joe Biden has said it 4 separate times. He said that we will defend Taiwan. In February of this year, we permanently stationed American ground forces in Taiwan. Very important to understand this. We now have a contingent of ground forces permanently stationed in Taiwan. So we will defend Taiwan. And whether or not the Chinese attack is a function of whether they think they can conquer Taiwan at some reasonable cost. And my view is for the foreseeable future, they can't do that.
Good morning, everybody. It's 11:04. Ham will come on at 11:30. It's earlier than I wanted to come on. I'll go as long as I can tolerate it. It's not about me. I shouldn't have said it that way. It's just a lot of this to me is getting repetitive, boring, and I'm just not sure how useful it is to everybody. I listened to Junk Savvy's call today. She's done a terrific job. I got to tell you, they got, I don't know, I can't remember all the names. 100, Ordinary Angler, a guy named Lawrence, Joanna. Anyway, at least a dozen to 20 people who are just so active and aggressively active, doing research, attacking. People are upset. And who can blame them? Us. But I really think I'm starting to believe that we have to delineate what is our goal: to get into a battle with the system, which is a goal, or is it to try to make money? And I'm really alarmed by, I studied since late 90s. I studied peak oil. So I came to a lot of, and I'm an economist by, I guess it's such a silly degree to become an economist, but I guess by training. So you try to extrapolate, you try to think, where do things head? And, so it's been 2.5 decades, maybe 3 for me, thinking about how the world's going to be. And it got delayed a bit. Something binged. Ding. But I really think that we're at a point, and I have to admit, I've never read a book on it, but I've read enough textbooks and other histories to know it vaguely. But the Weimar Republic, just before World War II, I believe that's right. The Reichsmark or the Deutsche Mark or whatever collapsed, and you needed wheelbarrows of this worthless currency, and the mark was the currency, other than the pound, maybe the florin and the flower lupin. But anyway, you needed a wheelbarrow to buy a loaf of bread, and we kid ourselves if we think it can't happen here. It can. I don't think that's happening right away. Don't panic. But we'll go to war first, and we'll do other strategies first. And there's no immediate replacement to the dollar. We're down to 58% of the reserve currencies around the world. When I started studying it, we were closer to 80%. And so it's been happening. But before that, it's like that joke about the Indian chief who had, or the South American chief. There's a plane crash and there's 3 survivors, and he asks them, each one, the first one, do you want death or Chi-Chi? The guy picks Chi-Chi because Chi-Chi is better than death. Well, it turns out, Chi-Chi, you can use your imagination what the young bucks did to this man. So the second one, fully knowing what was happening, looked at his choices and said still he'd rather have that nightmare of physical assault than death. So he chose Chi-Chi, and the chief said, okay, Chi-Chi it is. And then the young bucks set about, doing their deeds on the second survivor, Chi-Chi. The third man, it came to his time after he witnessed the first survivor get absolutely humiliated, and the second survivor go through the torment of a multiple assault. The chief said, how about you? What's it going to be, death or Chi-Chi? And the third guy said, well, I'm not going to do that. I'll take death. And so the chief said, okay, death it is. But first, a little Chi-Chi. So what happened in the Weimar Republic and in their stock market before this collapse was a little Chi-Chi. The stock market soared. It went to unbelievable highs. And that's what I think is going to happen in the US stock market very soon, very soon. And I think you can make some returns in even the most basic of investments over the next months. Let's use the presidential election as our time frame. It could end sooner, or it could end just after that. But in essence, that's kind of the time frame. And I think I've been saying it for a while, since last year, when everyone was calling for a correction. But I think the Dow and the S&P and the Russell Index, NASDAQ, they can all be up 30, 40, 50% from here. And it's already started. And then, après moi, les déluges. So before the market really has what could be a round trip for the ages, first we'll have a little bit of chi-chi. So anyway, this starts to get me thinking that while Ham sent me a text this morning from The Big Short. It says, if you get in early, you suffer, then you win. And I've been hoping one of these trades will win so that then we can move to physical assets, pay off a little debt, and get ready. But man, fighting the system, I'm really concerned, to summarize my thoughts. I'm really concerned we're going to run out of time. And while we fight that system, we're going to see the market make huge highs. And maybe there's a couple of trades in there, like I think wheat and precious metals, just the precious metals, some of the oil and gas stocks, the copper stocks. You're going to see upside as leadership does a rotation. And the good news is the Russell index is a smaller cap stocks. I think money's going to move to smaller cap stocks. But if we get lucky enough to make some money, where do we put it? I think the correction or collapse is going to be so severe. I don't know when. They delayed it for years. Some of these books, like this one, I bought, and it was it's 2008. So they've delayed all this reckoning for a long time. How much longer do we have? Nobody knows, but I'd love to get you guys ready for it. Ham comes on in 16 minutes. I'm going to just read a bit of chapter 13 of this book by Michael Maloney. It's called Golden Castles. And it's been a while since I read this, so I don't even know what it's going to say, but I like the premise. The premise is gold and silver versus real estate. Believe it or not, this is Michael Maloney, I believe in the passive income that entities like real estate earn. These are the ultimate investment. Gold and silver are just the means I have chosen to get there. And remember, yesterday, people were getting alarmed that I was telling women to go back to the kitchen and cook. That's not what I was saying. I was just challenging, and I don't have the answer. But what if the world's population collapses, goes from 8 billion to 6 billion? Over the next 30 years, what happens to real estate? And then it's location, I suppose. But anyway, it's just a question. It's not a prescription. Even though I haven't mentioned it until now, my ultimate goal is to accumulate real estate, not gold and silver. Gold and silver do not cash flow, and there are no tax advantages. However, I firmly believe that because of the cycle we're in, and remember, this is 15 years ago, so the cycle's been delayed, I can accumulate far more real estate by buying gold and silver now than if I buy real estate now. Turns out he was wrong, but he was wrong in timing. I don't think he's going to be wrong in the trade. To illustrate this concept, let's look at the relationship between housing and silver markets during the last big precious metals bull market. The house that silver built. The S&P Case-Shiller Home Index, so S&P versus CSI, says that in 1971, when the last great precious metals bull began, A median price single family home in the United States was $20,000. Can you imagine? 20,663. The same year, silver's average price was $1.39 per ounce. Thus, it required 14,823 ounces of silver to buy a median price single family home in the United States. At the end of the precious metals bull in January 1980, just 9 years later, a decade, that same home cost $42,747, roughly a double. And silver was just over $52.50 per ounce. So it required roughly 814 ounces of silver to buy the same home. The house had increased in price twice, or 100%. However, the currency supply had grown 2.45 times, or 145%. Inflation raged all through the 1970s. That might be what we have going on again. And the result was that though real estate increased significantly in price, its true value barely kept up with inflation and may actually have fallen a little. Conversely, silver had increased 3,641%, outpacing inflation by more than 15 times. The 1970s were primarily Richard Nixon and good old whip inflation now, Gerald Ford. But the guy that gets blamed for it is Jimmy Carter. He ended the 70s. All right. Now here's a really cool scenario. If you had sold a house in 1971 for $20,663 and to purchase silver, by 1980, your investment would have outpaced real estate by a factor of 17, growing to $770,000. If you then sold your silver, you could buy 18 median price single family homes, all for cash, at the 1980 price of almost $43,000 per house, and benefit from 100% of the cash flows from those properties. Or if you were feeling really adventurous, you could put 20% down and buy 90 homes for the same price. Today, and remember, this is 15 years ago, we find ourselves in a similar situation, only better. He was wrong, but it doesn't mean that this same strategy, the time hasn't come for this same strategy. Today, we find ourselves in a similar situation, only better. Real estate has become much more overvalued, no shite. And silver has become extremely undervalued. Silver is still down 60-some% from its all-time highs. Measured against silver, the median price single-family home in the United States hit its peak in 2002. I bet you have to adjust that now, at a price of 38,123. Let's just call it 38,000 ounces of silver, some 2.5 times higher than at the beginning of the last precious bull market. That was in 2022. When silver hit its peak of $52 in 1980, it was not rare. Today, as we've already discussed in detail, I've mentioned to you several times, identifiable above ground silver stockpiles have been drawn down to a tiny fraction of their size in 1980. I think they're gone now. There is no above ground reserves sitting there to dampen market price. When the gold and silver bull market explodes, and I think that's ahead of us, gold and silver, the financial news will react just like it did in 1980. The only thing you'll hear about is gold and silver. At that time, there will be market analysis all over the internet, radio, and TV and Twitter, proclaiming to everyone the greatest investment of all time, gold and silver. It already seems to be starting. The rarity of silver will go from something that a small fraction of the world population knows about to something everyone is now an expert on. That's coming. After studying things like the tulip mania of 1637, the NASDAQ bubble of the 1990s, history and the current fundamentals of gold and silver, and the history of financial cycles, it would not surprise Michael Maloney in the least to see less than 500 ounces of silver buy a median price single family home sometime in the future. He's been wrong by 15 years. But is he going to be wrong now? As of this writing, 500 ounces of silver is selling for around $9,000. I bought a lot of it. I wish I had purchased Bitcoin. I'd say you'd probably have to pay 20 grand now. I would venture to bet that as you're reading this, it's even selling for more. And a median price single family home is selling for 200,000. I think a median home in the United States, I'll have to look it up, is over 450. And I'll wager the home is selling for less as you read this. Wouldn't you love to buy a home outright for 9,000 or put 20% down and buy 5 homes? Well, I believe that if you buy silver now or gold, or gold miners, and wait until silver is once again overvalued, and it's not right now, and real estate is once again undervalued, you'll be able to do so. Remember, in 1980, it only took 800 ounces of silver to purchase one home, and silver wasn't rare then. If indeed the day comes that you can buy a medium price single family home in the United States for 500 ounces of silver, then that means that if you owned a home outright, sold it now, and bought silver when silver peaks against real estate, and bought similar homes in the same neighborhood, barring tax losses, you could buy 23 of them outright. Or over 100 if you put 20% down. I know these figures sound silly, but believe it or not, they are not improbable. It's just a repeat of the 1970s bull market in precious metals with a little twist. That's gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and your puppy dog. What these numbers show is that by going with the flow, right now, the flow is in the direction of precious metals. There was a glitch in the time stream. This was written 15 years ago. I think he's right now. And always betting in the direction of true value, your winnings are not only quite large, even huge, but they're nearly unbelievable. I wish I had purchased Bitcoin instead of listening to him. But I think he's correct now. Giving our housing example, even if you ended up losing 50% of your earnings to taxes and other costs, you could still end up owning about 12 homes outright, all for the price of one home in today's dollars. I'm not telling you to do this. His idea is sell your home, invest it in precious metals, come back after the cycle changes. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm actually telling you from profits that we make, maybe take 5 or 10% or 20% of those profits and look at gold. Gold miners, silver miners, they're not as many. Platinum, palladium, copper, etc. The biggest mean reversion in history is knocking on our door. I can't stress this enough. The good news is that everything always reverts to the mean. And the bad news is that everything reverts to the mean. Whether the news is good or bad will depend on if you are invested in the correct asset class for the cycle you are currently in. And investors who are aware of this will have wealth knocking on their doors, whereas investors who are caught unaware may end up with the collection agents knocking on the door. Measured in silver, real estate peaked in 2002. This was written 15 years ago at a price of 38,000 ounces of silver for a medium price single family home. Real estate has never, ever been this overvalued. Well, it is now. And silver has never, ever, ever been this undervalued. Well, almost. It was about 6 months ago. The point of all this is that with real estate so overvalued and silver so undervalued, or gold, or platinum, or palladium, or copper, chances are that they will both overshoot in the opposite directions, extremes, when they revert to the mean. What that means for you is that you now have a very rare chance to become wealthy quickly by simply taking advantage of economic cycles and the wealth transfer they create. That's his chart. And it only goes out to 2008. Anyway, it's a concept I want to put in your head. We can talk about it later. Ham comes on in 2 minutes. Let me make sure the speaker is live. It's taking
Battery
long.
40%.
Battery
Connected to
40%.
Bill's iPhone.
Battery 40%. All right. With the 2 minutes remaining, we can look at some prices. Finger is down 4 cents to 262. My little trade that I've told you about is 3 cents now. DJT is hovering just under 34. GME is right at $23. If you don't think they have these short squeezes under some kind of control, I don't think you're watching the tape. Boeing is actually down 5 smackers. I guess planes can't fall out of the sky permanently. Wolf is up 75 cents to 5 smackers. All right, here we go. You're live, Maestro.
I'm just reading John Berta's complaint by the SEC.
Yeah.
It's hysterical what they said.
Well, they're trained to go after CEOs. They're not trained to go after corruption.
I just have to get the pull it up again. They are concerned that Mr. Berta, by giving out the preferred share, can cause a short squeeze. No shit. Everybody knows that if you have 2 million shareholders, 2 million shares of stock, and you issue a special dividend, if there's 10 million naked shorted shares, they don't match up. It's impossible to deliver.
Sorry, that was my other computer. Apologies.
No, no problem. It just says it's impossible to deliver. And the SEC is going after John Berta and his partner for trying to reward shareholders for being attacked by criminals. So instead of going after the criminals, they're going after John Berta.
Unbelievable.
And I met John Berta after speaking to him for many years. He's a good man. He wasn't here. He's here trying to protect everybody. I wasn't there when he issued the special dividend, but he's on the right track. A special dividend stops the music and exposes the crooks. That's what happens. Can you hold on 1 second? Wait, it's my wife.
Do I have a choice?
I'm sorry, but I'm just trying to look for the actual the complaint. It's just amazing that the SEC, they're so trapped. All they have to say is, it's just unbelievable. Here it is. The neutral. Hold on. filed in the U.S. Southern District, alleged that Berger and whatever the other guy's name planned and conducted the manipulative scheme that included, among other things, issuing a preferred dividend immediately before the merger, told certain investors and consultants and hired them via social media that the dividend would force the shorts to exit their positions. No shit. You can't say that? It's remarkable. And the company cashed in by selling 137 million in ATM offering. Didn't GameStop just do the same thing?
Yeah.
All right. GameStop did the same thing. It would trigger a short squeeze that artificially raised the price of the company's common stock. They didn't artificially do it. The shorts did it. Just a little bit of dividend. What's the big deal? It's remarkable. Again, people, this system is that, when you're in a couple of stocks, if you're not fighting back, you can't do. This is like insane. Other countries are doing what? Going after the criminals. Our country goes after the people that are fighting the criminals. I just saw a picture of Ace. He's at the beach with his family somewhere. I just tell him be safe with the water with the kids. I know the summer is always great, but that riptide stuff is so deadly. You have to be careful. Again, the John Berger thing is just ridiculous. I can't believe it. And they allow it. Everybody should be fuming. Burn the evidence is like, from that fire. Ken Griffin, they started at the Ameritrade facility. Everybody knows about it. And the only thing they're doing is now going after people that are trying to stop the fight. Going after fighting back. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, let's move on from John Berger. Again, I'm with the guy. He did the right thing, and it's a disgrace what's going on here. The SEC, he's trying to force a short squeeze because the shorts can't deliver the dividends. Think about that. They're telling you. They're telling us all that the SEC, they know the silver bullet is a dividend. I've been telling everybody that. And the SEC protects the criminals versus forcing them to deliver the dividends to investors. It's remarkable what's going on here. And again, it's a disgrace. I don't know how these people continue to operate and go home to their families knowing that they're just letting a select group of people just rob everybody and couldn't care less. And we all know about it. Berger's got to reach out and try to get a meeting with Devin Nunes and get in with that crowd. He has to step up because that will expose this whole thing. Just remarkable. And again, what DJT, I just posted stock squeezed at 37 today. They squeeze it up, put it down. This is how shorts try to cover. And William described the gentleman to me that he said that wanted to thank you yesterday about DJT. He bought it. The stock got smoked.
Yeah.
And he was going to bail out. And you convinced him to.
Well, you did.
Hold
it
on.
was RW, and he had purchased. I think he said he bought it around $41, but it was
Right.
down to 31.30 or something like that on Thursday. And he was concerned that it was going to collapse, and should he get out and try to buy it back later? But your words and your strategy convinced him not to sell. So he was quite grateful.
All right. So again, if he is long and the stock ran to 37 today, if you were concerned about your position, you could have sold the 40 calls probably at $3 today against your position that expire on Friday. Don't be afraid to make a move to limit your upside, but to protect your downside and bring in income. You can do that. No one's going to bite you. All right. But just think outside the box. There's other ways to play the market. Let's say you paid $40 for the stock. If you sold the calls at $3, $3.50 today, you break even. The most you can make is $3 because 42. You would make the premium on the calls if the stock went to 45. That's the most you can make. But instead of paying 40, take away the 3.5. Now you're down to 36.5 on the stock. So Friday, if the stock closed at 37, you would collect all that premium, and you'd be up by $1 or 50 cents, depending on what you sold the options for. And you establish your position over. That's a good way to trade it. Don't be afraid. You can learn about options. They won't bite you. You use them to lower your cost on your stock position. All right? It gives you some protection. Doesn't give you all the protection you need, but it gives you some protection. On a different note, William, going back in time, I was telling you that people that I knew were paying off the debenture to Yorkville and Wolf, and that was between 60 and 80 cents, 60 something like that.
Right.
Well, the stock hit $5 today, 5.10.
Yeah.
There's over a billion shares short in that name. I just put it up. The billion share club that I know of is Kodak, Tesla, and Wolf.
And Northwest Bio.
Listen, I'm sure the other ones, but these are the ones that I've seen the data on. And those are the three names I've seen the data on, and it was over a billion shares on shorts on those names.
What's the short on T-Low hits a new high?
I forgot that. I've seen that data. I forgot.
All right. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
I'll get it. No. I'll dig it up. Just a minute. No matter what the company does. What is this company doing? They're trying to extend your life. They're doing testing on your pets. Everybody loves their pets. Everybody. My dog is old too. I'm like, and they could care less. They have dogs. What do they just murder them? They're just animals. They don't care about anything besides the pets. When it works in the pets, they'll eventually can work on humans, and they don't even care. And just go back again. How does the SEC allow a certain group of criminals just to keep stealing everybody's money? It's remarkable. Again, look at India, Thailand now, South Korea, China, basically telling you we're going to behead you if you start naked short selling in our country. They want to protect their investors, their business, their borders, everything. Ours is the complete opposite. Do whatever you like. And we want to put those people on TV for running $1 billion now. They're celebrities. It's just remarkable. And, we can't do much more. GTI, we need management out to get some fundamentals and change the story there. Hopefully Richard can take care of that. We know the short's there. They told us. The SEC told you. Not me. Not William. It's in a court document. And I told you before, they never tell anybody anything. So now you see it in John Berta's stock. They told you that he was trying to squeeze the shorts, and it did work. And the shorts the stock went up artificially. No shit, it's going to go up artificially because the shorts are covering. And if they didn't create that position, John Berta would probably never gave out that special dividend. But he knew, everybody knows these things are happening. You can see it. This is just remarkable what they do. Anyway, let's move on. FingerMotion. I posted, William, early this morning, the manipulation. They all morning from 6:50 pre-market, they were offering 25,000 shares, spoofing with 50 shares that traded. It's just remarkable, that what they keep trying to do. It's just remarkable that they keep trying to do it. The volume has disappeared. There are no sellers in FingerMotion. Zero. How does a stock go down if the SEC is listening? How does a stock go lower if no one's selling it? That's a riddle for them. How does it happen? There's no trading. The only thing that's going on is a short selling back and forth.
It's the CEO's fault.
It's the CEO's fault that he has to watch this manipulation and blame them for trying to save his company, his shareholders, his family. It's no big deal. And then you go look at KNW. Lynn Partners has a debt spiral toxic note on top of the company. They're shorting against it. Everybody knows about it. Before that was Benchmark on that company, CEO signing deals with the devil, and they're just going to get wiped out. Even Jeremy is fighting back now against the shorts again. He said he's going to go to the FBI. William read in his statement recently, right?
Yeah, and he's selling a third of his asset.
He's selling his asset. The poor guy has an asset. They're making him sell it. He worked who knows how many years to get that asset. In his eyes, that's what he wanted to do, and they don't care. Kill it. Lynn Partners needs to be up 220%. So that's what they do. Their investment in that company's trash, yet they're rich, everyone's poor. That the SEC can't figure out. But going after John Berta, they can figure out. So in FingerMotion, there is zero volume, 50,000 shares, and I'll be able to say, and I didn't watch most of the trading. I saw 600 shares trade. That's what I saw this morning. William, 90% of the 51,000 is fake. Easy.
Yeah.
How is the stock sold down every day? Now 3 cents, 2 cents, 1 cent. I'm going to say it again to everybody. Get a piece of paper and a pencil. The shorts need volatility. Volatility makes investors panic. That's what they're trying to do. The problem with FingerMotion is there is no volatility. Volatility needs to come to the upside in FingerMotion so people would sell it, not to the downside. People are not selling it, as you can see. No selling, no volatility. That means the short is trapped. 100%, they're trapped. They're trying every trick in the book, but the company's fundamentals are too strong, and they're only just basically putting themselves more in a trap. They got their head in the mouse trap, and they just keep sticking it in there for the bar to keep breaking their neck. That's how stupid these guys are. The only thing I can think of what they're trying to do is they're crying to the feds saying, help us, we're trapped, like they're trying to do with MMTLP, because there's no way out. There's no way out of this thing. And we put the truck in front of the SEC 15 times, William. Did John Berta do that? No, we did. We told the SEC about the crimes. We were whistleblowing about the crimes. I think we've done it. I think we've done a bango job telling, warning, whistleblowing, whatever you want to call it, to the SEC 15 times. We've done everything possible to alert them about the crime. They've given us back tidbits of the crime. For example, like in GTII, the Crimea is getting caught as an unregistered toxic lender. What's that word, William, that they use? I put it up yesterday.
Sucker?
The word that the word that they describe Crimea as the criminals. What was that?
Oh, recidivist, two-time recidivist.
Yes, I put up the I put up the meaning of it yesterday. I found it. I went and looked it up, and
it means criminal, basically.
It means criminal. It's hysterical, and it's in the complaint.
It's a little more elaborate than that, but it means criminal.
No, I'm actually looking for it right now. It actually means criminal. Just on a different note, William, someone posted that Boeing
Stock's down today.
And they were moving the capsule of the Starliner capsule on the way to the launch pad, right?
Right.
And the safety window falls out on the truck as they're driving it. Everyone's looking at it. It falls off. Hey,
anything to save money for the hedge fund management of that company.
It's amazing. I was laughing about it.
So I put up,
right now.
You received a chart yesterday from a mutual friend of ours for Finger. And I've put it up. I know you don't believe in charts, but the thing about it is there is a pronounced, it's a resistance line, but it's a downtrend since October of 23. The stock has gone from $8 down here to under $3. Every time it reaches, you have it there, this green line, they pull it back. But the good news is, if it busts out of that $3 approximately range, look what's next, $4 And I'd say then $7. But that's my amateur reading of charts. It's the shorts are trapped here in Finger. If it busts out with good news, earnings, which are due, I guess, in 2 weeks, a new research report, a new contract, just anything that brings visibility to cash flow and earnings growing not only now but forever, you got a stock here that doubles or maybe goes up to $7 or $8, ignoring the squeeze. So I know you don't like charts, but I just wanted to put that up.
It's hard to charge for. And guy just asked me any updates on GTIC. I see them mentioned. I don't see them mentioned much more. I have some finger, but having
it's just that's just a basher. Look, they're asking about the dividend. The dividend gets approved by the SEC.
I just told them follow Richard. That's all. Richard's filed the suit. That's all.
Well, he's actually not filing. It's another lawyer, but
another lawyer doing whatever.
But Richard's the point man, along with this other guy.
Right, whatever it is. But they
collating the numbers.
Nice and easy. I can't do anything. These are legal things that have to be straightened out, and they will be. And we'll get the clarity will come from Richard, not from me. I only follow stocks. I follow naked shorts. I don't follow charts, as William just told you. Again, the stocks that I follow, it's tough to chart fraud. For example, DJT goes up to 37, and they immediately attack it down to 33, bounces back up to 35 already. I mean, all this means is buy the dip, sell the rip. You can't, all that, the chart doesn't mean anything to me. If you buy it when it was crashing, you bought the stock below 34, it's up to almost 35 already. You bought 2,000 shares, you're up 70 cents, sell it 70 times 2,000, 1,400, and you made that, and that's your second trade. If you came in long it, you made it this morning, you made it again. And and if you want to continue in the stock, you buy the 40 calls and you forget about it. That's how you stay long. And you are using profit versus any money. You don't risk any money. And that's how you stay long in a stock. I mean, that's all. That's what I do. This other stuff is ridiculous. Reading about John Bird is just, I can't believe that's the FCC put in the complaint. By issuing the preferred dividend, he orchestrated a short squeeze. Well, SEC, how many shares are short? Just show us the numbers. Right? Why would I orchestrate a short squeeze if there's no short, right? What's going on here? Who shorted the stock illegally?
So this guy's asking GTII squashed. Actually, I'm surprised. It's at 11.5 cents. So it's basically 11 by 12. That's pretty strong considering the rundown down to 8 or 9 cents.
Listen, again,
but none of it matters. We have to draw a line in the sand. Yesterday is yesterday. Today is today. This is our plan. We have to implement it. And like I've said, I think we can get it. It's corny, but I think we can get it to $9 in 9 months if we all work together. We don't do a deal with the shorts, and we can get it there. But we're not ready to get out of the starting gate. We're just not ready.
You got to let the lawyers do what they have to do. Richard is trying to remove management. And if they can remove management, they can put a company in here that can turn things on. Just like GameStop. GameStop raised all kinds of money. Now GameStop has to prove what they're going to do with the money. The shorts are going to say.
All right, here's a question for you. This is from an idiot, but it's a reasonable question. We don't have to get upset, but you're the man to answer it. I'd be curious to know what Martin Shen really thinks about the long-term future of Finger, what he would say in casual conversation after several shots of liquor. He would never take a shot of liquor. But anyway,
he doesn't drink. I don't think he drinks. I don't know.
Well, he drinks, but I don't know if he'd take several shots of liquor. I don't know about
He said that this is what he told me. We were both taking a shit in the bathroom, and he yelled over to me, if there's a short that is short this stock, he's going to fuck them up. That's what he said to me. And then he asked me for a piece of toilet paper, like Elaine did in Seinfeld. Can you
This
borrow a
is
square?
a
Get
visual
lost.
that I would prefer not to think.
That is the most retarded question ever. And
I know.
that gentleman should stop drinking from the toilet that I just took a shit in. How's that one? How stupid is that?
Just watch his videos. If you're really curious, I did an
Right.
interview. He's done at least one more since then. And the internet is full of his presentations and press releases.
And if you don't like what he's saying, if you find him lying,
Sell the stock and move on.
That's it. Do whatever you like to do. It's right there. We're following him. None of us, just so you know, none of us live in China. We don't go to China. I haven't been there in years.
I've never, well, I was in Hong Kong.
Idea. Excuse me?
I was in Hong Kong, but I haven't really been to China.
I'm just saying that I've been to China many years ago, and you know what? What's going on now? All I can see is that the company has tremendous partnerships. And for example, GameStop just got $4 billion. It's been 2 months. How come they haven't bought a business yet? Oh, it takes time to hire people and to do things. That's what FingerMotion's doing, the same thing. Why is it that a company that's trying to build out a business has to do it in 30 seconds and the short sellers just hit a sell button? I don't understand that, but I think some people need to pay attention. That's how companies grow. It takes more than an hour.
Here's some breaking news, and it's true. I read it. Hooters restaurants are closing all over the United States.
Worst food in creation. Worst business model ever.
It's also because they went woke. Who wants to come in and stare at a guy when you're there? Anyway, let's not get on that.
I had something else. I talked about Wolf. I talked about, for people saying that I'm a terrible stock picker, Wolf went from 60, 80 cents to $5. That's not bad. It's not in the video, but it's pretty good pick. All right.
What I have to point out is now I don't know if you meant last Friday or this week. I'm assuming this week or next. It would be up to the buyer. But me listening to you, if I had the money, I would have gone out a week, maybe 2. But for 10 call options, maybe you put up $500, maybe $1,000 in DJT. There was $5 or $6 grand in profit on a recommendation just Thursday, Friday of last week, if you listen to him. But if
But listen,
not
again,
everybody
I'm just showing you. I'm trying to teach you how to trade these names. I'm very good at trading these names. I invest in different names because I believe they're bigger potential. Again, I seen the data in DJT. I never followed it till Devin Nunes stepped out and said he wanted to follow the shorts. I only followed it because it's related to Trump. So in FingerMotion, but I've been studying it for 5 years, it's a little different. GTI I've studied for 3 years, I believe. And the reason that I followed that is because of the debt spiral.
Hey, Chris, the GTI dividend, call the SEC, ask for whoever's covering it, find out why they haven't approved it yet. Has nothing to do with us or management of GTII. So it'll come. It'll come. It just, the SEC's, my guess is they're waiting for financials. And GTII just announced a couple of weeks ago they were not able to get that out. Once those financials come out, I think the thing will be approved.
Listen, what's that? The GTII?
Yeah, the dividend from GTII, the release.
The dividend.
Well, I guess I'm confusing that with Finger. Sorry, yes. Chris.
You got me confused. I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry. With that, the brokerage firms, it's catching out the brokerage firms. And they're slow walking it while they fix it. In my case, I can't mine. I have no access to mine. None. Zero. And
people keep calling up. The brokerage firms keep giving you a different story. We've got about 70 different stories why you can't get the dividend. The real problem was when the stock went to 275. It went to $9. People wanted to exercise their dividend, but the brokerage firms colluded together and told investors, if you pay the company $2.75 for your dividend share, we will not accept the shares back into your brokerage account. So people were calling me up, were saying, hey man, I want to exercise 10,000 dividend shares. I can make myself $70,000, 9 to 275, whatever it was, 60,000. The brokerage firms wouldn't accept the shares back into their account. The reason they didn't want anybody to exercise them is because they didn't have them, William. So they needed to come up with a story. Say, hey man, you can exercise this, but you can't put the stock back in this account. We won't let you. And you say, why? I've had my account at Fidelity for years. No, we just won't accept it back. That's because they don't have it. That was the biggest story. And that hurt the company more than anything out there. Because if there was a litigator that was willing to take it on, that was the crime right there.
So you don't have to answer this, and I deleted the guy, but you got started in this fight because
so wait a second. FingerMotion has 53,000 shares all day volume. And now we got a 265 bid for 25,100 shares. Now, if that was a real buyer, okay, the 268 offer for 200 shares would move out of the way. Because there's no way you want to make a market for 200 shares. Why would you give it away if the buyer's there? That is the short by the short right now. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. That's what's going on right there. We'll see what happens now.
2 by 2.
It's 25,100 by 200 shares.
But
now,
down in the level 2, it says 2 by 2.
Now, if the 268 offer for 200 shares moves down to 267, 266, then the wash is going to happen.
You're exactly right. If this were a normal stock and you said you saw 25,000 to buy, that ask for 200 shares would move up. It would go to
go back to 270, 275.
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
Right. So let's see. So someone is showing their bid. This is the terminology. You ready? They're showing their bid, meaning they are out loud, meaning telling the world. They're like the town crier. I'm bidding 265 for 25,000 shares. That means they're standing there out loud. They're telling everybody. A lot of people like to hide their orders and only show 300 shares at a time. This guy is showing his 25,100 for a reason. So either A, I look for a big wash of 25,000 any minute now at 265. That's what I see coming up. So pay attention to the offer side will tell you when the trade's going to happen. If it moves to 267, meaning goes a penny lower, then you'll see the trade happen, the wash.
Penny lane. So do you think Wolf is squeezing, or is it just accumulation?
Yes, I think it's been a slow grind. I think that once it gets through 5, okay, Wall Street's got a big thing about these whole numbers. Once it gets through 5, this is what happens when the sell buttons, they stop selling. It starts to grind up slowly, and soon you'll start getting the gaps of $1, $1.50. It'll thin out then.
I was reading Vanity Fair, which I normally don't anymore now that Christopher Hitchens wasn't in there. But there was a headline, the Ozempic weight loss miracle has a dark side. Patients contend with shortages and a world of criminals and con artists who are filling the void with counterfeits, life-threatening counterfeits. But nobody cares in the stock market. Nobody cares in the stock market.
Counterfeit a cigar wrapper, you go to jail. A cigar wrapper. Oh my God, it's a Cuban cigar. It says it on the wrapper. And they sell it for $10. And you go to jail for that. So the FingerMotion was 200 shares for sale at 268. Now there's another 100 shares that's joined the rally here at 268. And then they put up a small print of 265.30. People, I'm just babbling about this because I think it's important that you understand when they're going to do a fair trade, and it's coming up. They're warming it up. They're trying to make it look like there's a seller around now. It's a pre-arranged trade. Someone's bidding for half the total buy.
But let's go after the CEO. Let's not go after the colluders.
Right. Let's go after the CEO.
The market manipulators. They're okay. They're the good guys. They pay our campaign finance contribution.
I don't even know what to say anymore. It's just remarkable. William did say, on the West Christian with Young Savvy yesterday.
Yeah.
What did two of the people say on the call? You told me that this morning. We spoke about it this morning.
That was a dense call. There's a lot of information. But there were two different people. One knew someone going to South Korea, and the other was going, or one of their associates was going to South Korea. And the question was, why not get companies to delist from the United States and list in South Korea? This was Ham's idea for years. And in fact, he's had luck presenting it around the world, but no one pulls the trigger.
No one wants to put the money up. I've tried. I'm doing everything I can. Now you've seen the countries. I think if I was able to get there, just the timing and the monetary backers are not here right now. But I think if I were to get there, me and William, I think I can get it done. I really do think I can get it done now. Just got to get away from this nonsense. It's just terrible. Every day I read a story,
What was Russ Christian doing as a practice before you introduced him to this problem?
He came from John O'Quinn. He was down the road. He was doing real estate law. And
John O'Quinn came to you because you were fighting on behalf?
No, I was brought in by a gentleman from Texas. John O'Quinn just made a ton of money in tobacco litigation, and they're looking for things. They actually they're the people that would take a shot and fund these lawsuits if you can show them a big return.
I see.
So I went down and pitched John O'Quinn, Laramack, and Pirtle. Tom Pirtle was my attorney. We went in to see John O'Quinn. John O'Quinn gave him the stamp to go after these guys on Wall Street using his resources because he had the money. Well, Tom Pirtle died of cancer. John O'Quinn died in a suspicious car accident. The other guy retired, and Wes became the leader.
Wes, on his call yesterday, spoke that in his early lawsuits, he didn't have a lot of success because they
didn't know what they were doing.
They didn't understand it, but also the game is stacked against winning these.
One thing he said that was very interesting yesterday, Wes said that the people he's fighting in the courtrooms for discovery and all this stuff, he's fighting not only the brokers, but he has the SEC and FINRA
are on the side of the bad guys.
How is that possible? These guys are on the other side of the table, protecting the brokerage firms from releasing the blue sheets and information that we all need to see if the criminals and how bad it is.
So your lawyer didn't win your case, or won it slightly? Or you might not want to talk about that, but that's
no problem. I have no problem.
That's over 20 years ago.
John O'Quinn, who was a big Texan, big shot, big money game hunter. When it came to put up $500,000, my friend just told me there's 4 offers now at 68 in FingerMotion. That means that they're getting ready for the cross at 265. Anyway, John O'Quinn, I reached out to the law firm of Morgan Lewis Bacchius. They were going to draft a complaint that would have stuck. The hardest thing is to get to discovery, all right? And O'Quinn didn't understand Wall Street. He was a tobacco litigator. So that's why that the cases that I was following failed, because John O'Quinn was too cheap to put up the $500,000 to a prestigious New York firm that actually had the senior partners helping us out because they were our friends. And Morgan Lewis Bacchus, their clients were Merrill Lynch, Jeffries, a whole bunch of big players, Janney Montgomery, and they wanted nothing to do with us because of we were going after them. But the partners were our friends, and we were going down the road. And O'Quinn didn't want to spend the money. He drafted a complaint, drafted by a Texan that had no idea about Wall Street, and the case got kicked out with prejudice because they didn't know how to draft a complaint. They did know the judge, but that didn't get over. I guess so.
With prejudice, I always forget that means you can't refile or you can. I can't.
You cannot go back.
Yeah, you
can't
cannot
do
go
anything.
back.
You're dead in the water. And the cases that I had, we had all the proof. Not a little bit. We had it all done.
Well, that's the nature. You and I met with a couple of attorneys here who,
Right.
if they had
Which is
seized it, they would, you know, what's his name? Wes was talking about his minimum amount that he looks for to get in recovery is $100 million. And these two guys we met with, very smart, they didn't see that picture because of the arbitration clause. And so it's a inch by inch battle. But as lawyers start chipping away at the defenses that the SEC, that FINRA, that Goldman Sachs have created to prevent, for example, they take away racketeering at the federal level for securities fraud. Well, who does that unless they're committing securities fraud? And who does that? Who doesn't control and own Congress and own, frankly, the presidency? Anyway.
Everything shows that it's slanted. There's two things you can do here. All right. Excuse me. There's three things. The company needs to have fundamental, great fundamentals to actually outlast the shorts. Because if you need money, the shorts are going to hold you down, and that's the end of the game. All right. So FingerMotion, in my way, and what I see, checks off the box that okay, they have these guys trapped. The stock tells me that they're trapped because there is no selling, and everybody knows about it. All right, they're starting to print some stock at 265. Remember, if the stock is bid, if the stock is bid for 25,000 shares, and you owned it, would you be in a race to sell it? There's 300 shares for sale. I want to sell 500 shares, but you know what? Let me wait. It looks like there's a buyer here, right? But the first thing they do is start printing it. Because that is how they get people. They need to con you into selling. So they're going to do this little con here. All right. But anyway, what was I speaking before that, William?
You were speaking about many things, but I'll give you a.
Oh, the three things you need to be three. You need fundamentals.
Right.
You don't need capital, because if you need capital, that's how they'll trap you. All right. So if the company has good fundamentals, doesn't need capital, I check the box. FingerMotion checks that box, checks the next box.
If you want to be public in the U.S. markets, particularly, it happens in all of them, but in the smaller price markets, there's no real institutional or research or brokerage buying. You got to go on the markets without needing money.
Right.
You can't need capital. Gary Gensler talks about capital formation. He might as well go out and talk about how handsome he is. It's the same falsehood.
All right, so let me go back to the three things. You got strong fundamentals, you don't need money. The third thing is you need a special dividend. Obviously, we know the special dividend is the trap, and the company has filed to do that. They filed with the SEC for approval that it's right there. And now the number four thing is eventually is that, you know what, the companies need to pick up and leave the United States, because this is like insane that this is going on. And William, I'm doing everything in my power to get us there. I'm doing everything I can. It's not easy traveling the globe. I just don't have $50,000 to toss out the window between the airfares, hotels, and staying some places for a week, so that you just can't land. Like, it's not going to, I used to go down to meetings in Palm Beach a lot. You fly down in the morning, gets a 7 o'clock flight. go to your meeting at 12, have lunch, come back and catch the 7 or 8 o'clock flight, and I'm back home in a day back to JFK. It's not like that. You can't just fly to Korea or Thailand or, to Abu Dhabi in one day. You got to stop, land on the ground for 3 days. So the whole journey could be a 20-day trip. And it's not easy to do that, and this is what you have to do. So again, I'm trying my best. I think the South Korean people, the regulators, are laughing at the U.S. And now we can show them how to take advantage of the U.S. for being so moronic. And I think that once we get a couple of companies to start leaving, that the floodgates would open, and then that would leave to, all you have to do is get one whale to leave. Imagine getting Elon Musk to leave the United States over the SEC. And he's the type of guy that you could probably get a meeting with to see something like that happen. But, that's how you really have to end this misery.
So, couple of questions. Why, I saw a headline stating that Wall Street needs to be replaced. That's why I think it's BlackRock and Citadel are starting an exchange in Texas. What do you think about this proposed exchange in
I
Texas?
didn't read much about it. Listen, you're still gonna be under the guidance of the SEC. All they're trying to do is corner all the dark pools. They're going to try to take away all the offshore dark pools and probably try to do that in Texas is what I think they're going to do.
And then this gentleman, Tom, is asking, do you still feel confident that the finger dividend will go through?
It's a basic dividend with a QSIP. It's going to trade. There's no reason it shouldn't go through. There's no reason at all.
Okay. It's just, that's the one I got confused with.
Listen, the SEC, so everybody understands, I talked to a lot of people. Every company that's trying to do stuff within the SEC, whether it's a corporate, whatever it may be, they are swamped. Companies are being, it's nothing to do with anybody. It's just that they don't have the manpower. They're slow, whatever it is, everything's just moving very slow.
All right.
And it's got nothing to do with, approval, disapproval. It's just that, for an organization that's got billion-dollar budgets, billions, and they can't hire people, it's just, like William, you always say, people go there, they're just looking for a way to go to the next job. That's the problem.
Oh, yeah, it's a revolving door.
And if you go back and read Gary, what was his last name? I can't remember. Oh, give me 1 second. Sorry, everyone.
Relax, everyone. Relax, everyone.
He was an attorney with the SEC. Oh, I can't remember his name. Gary Aguirre. There you go. Go read his story. The guy caught the head of Morgan Stanley, the CEO of Morgan Stanley, giving inside information to a fund called Pequot. Pequot was then buying stakes in companies that were being acquired. Morgan Stanley was the CEO of Morgan Stanley was the person tipping them off. Gary Aguirre was an SEC enforcement agent. Guy loved his job, caught him. They told him, let him go. He has too much juice, meaning he's too powerful. He kept pressing, and the SEC fired Gary Aguirre. If you go read his story, it's fascinating. And that's what they did to him. He wound up suing them, and I guess he got paid off, but he caught the head of Morgan Stanley with giving out inside information. How's that one?
This gentleman, Mike M, just sold Wolf for a 400% gain. And what he did was buy some calls in case it squeezes, and he's thanking you for your.
Very nice trade. That's how you're supposed to do it. If you believe it's still going to go, you want some more upside, you take, 20% of your profits and you buy some calls and forget about it.
Yeah.
Up, down, sideways, doesn't make a difference. That's how you do it.
Yeah, banking system owns the regulators. That's true.
Listen, this is the stock settlement system. All this other stuff that goes on, companies have fundamentals, some good, some bad, whatever it may be. All right, you make your bets accordingly. But the stock settlement system does not work. It's controlled by the criminals. And just look at GameStop. We've been telling you that they're going to, no one stepped up and said who bought the stake. I'm sure people on the phone understand. If you bought 30 million shares of stock, you were Warren Buffett. Go look at Warren Buffett. Every time he buys a stake in anything, he tells the world. This company, someone bought 120 million shares, and not one person said that they bought it. They're all ashamed that they bought it. I don't understand it. That tells you that the shorts bought it. And that, and if the shorts are the ones that are buyers and there's no more buyers, then the stock's going to go down. That's just what's going on. And we've been saying it. I want to see people win, but you won 3 goddamn times already. How many times do you want to win? Wall Street, we have no mercy for you. The stock squeezed 3 times. I hope it works for you. I doubt it. But, if you want to play it, go buy cheap calls and forget about it. Every day, every gamma squeeze, this, that, the other thing. Who bought the 120 million shares? Tell me that. That's all I need to know. I don't need to see someone buying options. It's all nonsense.
I don't see other questions. There's some questions on MMTLP, which I'll answer after you, because I don't think that's your.
Listen, they're attacking John Berta for giving out a preferred dividend that caused the short squeeze. The company raised money on the short squeeze, and that sounds exactly what GameStop did. Exactly. Same thing happened in AMC. They had a short squeeze. What did they do? They raised money through an ATM. They raised money. John Berta did a filing with the SEC to raise money in case the stock goes. I can't see, who are they suing and for what reason? But again, it's got to come down to discovery. And Mr. Berta should just ask, okay, you know what? If you're saying how do I know there's a big short? If we don't have any data, what are you telling me I squeeze the shorts? How do I know what they are? Right? No one knows what it is, right?
Right.
How can I squeeze the shorts? I don't know what the data is.
That's true.
Right? But you saying that I squeezed the shorts because of I was trying to create a short squeeze. Well, if I don't know what the data is, how do I know there's a short in stock? We took a shot. We tried to take care of our shareholders. And I could sit there and say, John Berta, they said, well, you told people, if you told people, then that's it. Well, I told people what? That if you have too many investors and we give out a special dividend, guess what? The short's got to cover their position. It's pretty easy. I put the picture up all the time of FingerMotion, right? You stop the music. Everyone needs to see a certificate that matches the name. That's how it works.
Looks like they did 6,000 shares at 265.
There you go. No, they haven't printed it yet. They haven't traded it yet. It's 61,853. It's been the same for 10 minutes. Back and forth, little, 100 share nonsense, 50 shares.
Yeah.
People, do you understand? I explained this at 270, 275. Every time you see these bids like this, now if I wanted to buy 26,100, I may stay there for 20,000, but I got to buy a little bit at 268 just to start getting in. What ends if you're standing there? Okay, you want to buy 26,000 shares, and let's say the stock, you put your bid out there and you don't buy any of it, and the stock just goes boom, 265 to $26.50. You're sitting there with your thumb up your ass and saying, boy, I should have paid up 3 cents for something, right?
Right.
Because they're not doing anything tells me it's the shorts versus the shorts. And they know exactly what they're going to do shortly.
So to speak.
Right. And that's it.
All right. I don't know what else to discuss. Let me just see if there's anything. No. Is relax like saying chill out, like what's his name said? I don't know.
Yeah, just chill.
Just chill. I don't know if it does.
Just chill, everybody. I'm Roaring Kitty. I paid $24 for the GameStop. It's now $22.64. I left $500 million on the table, and you should come over here and give me electric shock treatment because I'm an idiot. That's what they should be doing to that kid. They should be dragging him out with his 9 million shares and taking him away because he's living a beautiful mind. He's out of his mind. What, are you kidding me? These short sellers will fuck their mother for a nickel, and this idiot standing around with 9 million shares up 30 points, and he's sitting with his thumb up his ass. Get the hell out of here! It sounds like a stupid cartoon. Get the hell out of here! What do you think? What's he in the game for? Right? Think about that. What's he in the game for?
To make money, I guess.
I don't think he's in the game to make money because he's an idiot. And people following an idiot deserve to get what they get. That's what the problem is. I'm no rocket scientist, but I can tell you that if I had 9 million shares and the fucking thing was up $10, you guarantee I would have 4 million shares if it was up 9 or 10. And when it continued to go, and by the time it hit up 30, I would have 100 shares left. And walk away with $100 million and see you later.
Right.
If you notice, every hedge fund in the world sold. There's no institutional ownership anymore. They squeeze it up. They all dumped it. It went from 34% down to 28%. That's funds owned it without reporting. They were all selling it. And what does this guy think he's gonna bully his stock around himself? Instead, around the world, he had 600,000 people wanted a leader, and he told them all to chill. Okay, we're all standing here. Good luck. No game plan, no nothing. Zero. That's the game plan. Well, he's going to put all his own money up into it. There you go. Well, you were right. There's 5,000 shares just traded at 265.
Yeah.
So they're going to do the wash trade in pieces right now. I think they're going to do 5s and 4s and 3s.
Maybe so it doesn't alert anybody.
So it doesn't alert anybody to what's going on. That's how that's today's plan. It's just amazing that everyone here, I hope you're learning it. I don't care if it's one person or a million people on this phone. I'm trying to teach you on how the crooks are trying to sit here and they do fabricated fake trades right in front of you. This is all make believe that you're watching.
Yeah, 265.
Right?
The SEC looks at that and says, let's sue John Burda.
John, let's go get John Burda. He has everything to do with this. John Burda, get him.
Leadership.
John Burda and his friends have had all their money locked up for years now. The market maker, Virtue, stole everybody's money. Everybody got robbed, and it's no big deal.
The
Go ahead, John
leadership
Bird.
from Gary Gensler's
Right.
office is.
Hey, how about the others? If this guy says there's a big short problem here, we all know about it. Why don't we be transparent and tell everybody what's going on? If John Berger is part of this, then we'll catch him anyway, right?
Yeah.
Because guess what they can do, Bill?
Yeah.
They can follow the sell tickets to the money. Because if John Bird is doing it, he's doing it to make money, right?
Oh, they'll settle before discovery.
All they're looking to do is put those poor MMTO people, break up their community, and get them to give up.
And yeah, and delay. Apparently, there's a statute of limitations on something that runs out at the 2-year. I'm not a lawyer, but yeah, they're just trying to get people to be frozen. So
silence them. Silence.
Yeah.
Shut them up.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
All right. Are we good? Anything else?
Yeah, I think we're.
Remember, Richard Hoffman, follow him closely on the GTII saga. There's a lot of rumblings around. There's going to be a lot of action coming up. Hopefully management steps out. Keep an eye on it. Then we can discuss it. Look for the rest of the wash trades and FingerMotion at 265. And remember, there is zero selling. There may be a few people buying, but no one sold a share today. I'm sitting here with William counting the shares in slow motion. For the SEC, if you are listening, this is fraud in slow motion. Even us dummies can figure it out. We can watch it going on. How does the SEC allow people from offshore? West talked about it yesterday. Paper trails, offshore, onshore, they hide everything. They'll hide the trades to steal your money. It's just remarkable. I never seen anything like it. We don't even know if there's a terrorist group behind it. Does Lynn Partners or the Kramers have ties to people in the Middle East? We don't know. Where's the money going? You know, the U.S. government tracks down 100,000 shares through the terrorists. Here, these guys are stealing millions on a daily basis, and they can't find one person, not one wire, nothing. Where's all the money going? Everyone's yelling, DJT, GameStop, where's all the money going? On the sell side, where does the money go? No one says anything about it. All right, everybody, I got my wife brought me back my sandwich. I'm gonna have my lunch and my potato chips.
All right.
All right, well, if you have anything,
Thank
reach
you.
out. I'm around.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think someone just said 17 volume. That's for logic, I think you meant. Let me look at GTII. That would be too much coincidence. No, the volume in GTII is 41,000. Look, I on logic, let me see if I have a chart. I don't think I do to show you. I deleted my charts. Well, here's one. It's a little older, but basically my targets for logic, this chart was done a week or so ago, but the stock has broken out from its the 20-day and the 50-day moving average. It's gone sideways now, so this is, you can look at a newer chart. But anyway, it's around 3 cents. But to me, this 200-day moving average provides a target in a trade. So you can get in at 3 cents, sell at 6 cents or 7 cents if you want. This happens to also be the high here. But look at this gap when Aubrey Advisors handled the D-SPAC, either intentionally or incompetently. They gap down. And you could, if you look up collective audience, the same thing happened. But this gap, I think, needs to be filled, and that's right around 15, 16 cents. And yeah, here, this is logic. There's the gap. It's right around 16, 17 cents. But then there's this troika of highs, which are right around 80 cents. If you had logic on a double bottom, you could argue, breakout on news, the one that's been announced is a reverse merger, which is where if they use the arithmetic of their announcement rather than the price that the criminals have put this down to, it's worth 6 cents a share. So that's somewhere in here. You're buying at 3 cents, you can maybe double your money. But they also need to announce 2 or 3 others, 2 anyway, it's said in the announcement, pretty soon. And at 750 million, it works. And again, the risks are they listen to Aubrey Advisors or somebody like Aubrey Advisors. They do the deal in a dilutive way rather than doing it the way the arithmetic tells them to do it. But if they do it for the arithmetic, it brings it up in this clutter of trading just under 50 cents at 45, 46 cents a share. Now, could you get a short squeeze? Well, they did a reverse split, which, look, this crime, they've thought out every angle from all directions. So it's the perfect crime for the criminals. But there could be a little bit of a squeeze. And if it went through 80 cents, could it go through $1? Maybe. Could it go up? I don't believe it would get up into these numbers, 253. I don't believe that. But could it puncture, hit $1, hit $1.50, $1.25? Only if there were a squeeze. And I would emphasize with this one, it's easy to borrow. If there were such a thing as that kind of squeeze, maybe you trade out, you get out of some or get out of all, buy it back cheaper because they'll drive it back down if it gets over those numbers, in my judgment. But that's all subject to what the news announcements are over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And I expect some good announcements. That's on GTI, on Logic. Finger is just, yeah, it could. I don't think it's going to take a few quarters. I think it's going to take 2 quarters. That's my opinion. But it could be this next one. We have an announcement in July. So it could, you want guidance so that analysts can present value, revenue, cash flow, and earnings. And then there were quite a few questions here on MMTLP/NextBridge. What comes across to me very loud and clear is that Wes Christian is not working for well, I don't know about NextBridge, but he's not working for MMTLP. He's working for MMAT. If there's information, it's corollary. And it's expensive and it takes time. I don't know what people mean. People keep saying we want a resolution. Say we want a resolution. Well, you know, we're not gonna go around carrying pictures of Chairman Mao. We're not gonna join you anyhow. They say it's gonna be all right. Look, I don't know what resolution means. I don't know what settlement means. You don't either. Because by the time the lawyers and the lobbyists who have access to Congress, by the time the high-priced lawyers drive this through the legal systems, it'll be a settlement. And it'll be under signature And what number, what's the harm, what's the theory of cost? It'll be a nightmare. The single best way to help Greg McCabe help you, for you to help you, is to move your MMTLP into shares of NextBridge. Real NextBridge. If you have your shares at AST, the statute of limitations, I'm unclear. I'm not a lawyer, but if it is regarding the obligation to distribute the dividend, you've already taken care of that. If it's regarding the taking away of 2 days trading, if it's about fraud, if it's about racketeering, there's all sorts of ways they put protection in anyway. But yeah, maybe it does limit us all. I don't know. I think there's enough cases out there which have been joined. Maybe I can get Attorney Bazile on here to answer some of those questions. I'd love to hear his point of view. Wes Christian gave Mark Bazile great kudos on the call yesterday. And here's another thing. SEC is filing a suit against the dividend. I didn't see that. I saw the one against Berta, and I haven't had a chance to read it all. But if they file that suit, you know, you're talking a lot of legal avenues. Look at what Alpine did, because they have your money and they can hire the big, high, expensive law firms. Law firms will argue anything. They're not after truth. They're not after justice. They will file just shy of lying and misleading the court because they're officers of the court, but they'll push it right to the edge. And if they make a mistake, they'll say, "I'm sorry, Your Honor, there was a precedent." Lawyers will play every trick in the book. And I just don't know why you would sit on a non-existent MMTLP. What MMTLP is in your accounts, it's just a line item to keep track of your brokerage firm's obligation to you. Why not take it on yourself to say, you know what, I don't trust my brokerage firm. I'm going to move this placeholder that is worthless over to shares of NextBridge, which could be worth a bunch. Yeah, R.B. Rubenstein is testifying before Congress. Apparently he's invited, so I don't think it's going to do a whole lot. So anyway, I'm not gonna stay on much longer. I mean, if there's another question, maybe. I'm just going to end it here. I'm finding these calls quite repetitive, and the wait for something to happen torturous. And I think it's time to start thinking of other strategies within this concept to make money. I'm not giving up on the fight. I got to give my full support to John Berta and Wes, who I've never spoken to, although I did call into him once or twice. He never called back. A while ago, before he even got hired on for MMTLP. I mean, for MMAT and, Flame On. And, I back each and every one of you. I hope we can get through this. How will the dividend look like? I mean, what they've asked for is a $7 dividend. It's, to the extent that the SEC is waiting for anything, they may be waiting for the financials that Finger is going to release on or around July 12th. And that might be the reason for the delay. But it's in the SEC's hands. They're slow. They're on the side of the criminals. And they claim to be underfunded and understaffed. I think it's all a joke. I think the SEC under Gary Gensler's somnolent leadership is a complete joke. But I think it'll come. The dividend will come. Ham is pushing for a $3 strike price on the warrant. It's a warrant. I'm totally against that. To me, anything that makes this stock go to $4 will make it go to 7, 8, or 9. And why not exercise those warrants as a dividend at a higher price? That's my thinking. It is going to be interesting to see if brokerage firms allow you to exercise fake warrants. Where does that strike price money go? To the brokers? That is corrupt. It should go to the company. But the idea, Maverick, there's no way to prove the short position. But if there are 250 million shares of Finger counterfeit and short, I always remind you, there's a retired gentleman from the American Stock Exchange that says hooey. There's systems in place. FINRA's data is misleading because they don't give you when stock is delivered, when there's a buy-in. That's his point of view. He sticks to it. It has zero predictive capability as a theory. In fact, his theory is 100% wrong, but he sticks to because he cannot accept that the American Stock Exchange, everything he did worked for his life, has been corrupted, and it's a waste of time. I don't agree with that, of course, because I think he lived an honorable life and stood in for enforcement of rules. It's like me. The markets I used to trade in are gone. The U.S. financial markets are corrupted by money and by Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, and Ken Griffin, and the rest of the plunderers. Our military is corrupted by the industrial money banking complex. Do you know that Putin believes that U.S. systems targeted a beach in Crimea and children were killed by our bombs? Doesn't matter what you think. You listen to CNN and you get the crap from Tapeworm. But Samantha Powers, Victoria Nuland, that wimp Barack Obama who might be running our country, and then the senile man who should be in a home. You've got Madeline Not So Bright. You've got Blinken, whose forebears came from Ukraine. You've got Victoria Nuland in charge. Now she's out. Forebears came from Ukraine. They're angry at Russia. Got it. That's a long memory, and it's a valid memory. They're angry at the pogroms, but they forget that the Ukraine is full of Nazis and was on the side of Nazi Germany. I don't know what the hell, doesn't matter. That's all terrible, 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 evil. But right now, what is our end game? Putin has better weapons than we do. They're bombing a country that has 28 nuclear power plants, multiple reactors. which is the food basket of the world. What the heck are we doing? We're going to war because we want to save the dollar. We want to save BlackRock. We didn't vote for this. When did the Democratic Party become the party of war? When? We didn't vote for this. Hillary Clinton, neocon. I remember a time when I was told by my mother and by the media that if women could get in charge, we would have less war. Well, I'm still waiting for that glorious day. But what's going on with Wall Street and our government and the combination? That used to be called fascism. Look it up. The marrying of government, media, money, the war machine. That's fascism. And then you add on to it that we can't speak our mind, and that comes from the left. That comes from my party. I don't know what the end game is, but it's scary. Putin vowed a response. What if his response is to launch one of his weapons and take out an aircraft carrier? I don't think he'll do that. That's really extreme. What if it's to launch a series of missiles at one of our beaches? What if it's more prosaic? He just joins Iran in a battle against Israel. I don't know. The matrix is really scary of what Putin could do, and we haven't thought it through. But I'll tell you what, BlackRock will go in and rebuild Ukraine. BlackRock will go in and rebuild maybe Gaza Strip, although Trump's nightmare son-in-law, arrogant prick, says, well, this is a good place for condominiums and seaside resorts. Whatever. Guys and girls, we're running towards war. And I don't understand it. Anyway, it just shows that the human being is not any smarter than animals. We got to pray, and we've got to start thinking of other people as being human, and that their children are God's children. We can't go to this war. We can't do it. I don't know how I got off on that. Do I know anything on the dividend? No, the dividend is with the SEC. The SEC is like the World Bank. SLOW. My guess is, though, they're waiting for the financials on July 12th, which helps them to be SLOW. Oh, here. Not claiming to give anybody legal advice. Richard is saying securities frauds, statute of limitations, I'm dim sometimes, starts 2 years from discovery of the fraud and extends to 5 years. So I guess, who asked that question? Let me just see if I can find that question. Jordan did. So I guess, Jordan, the other side, the high price lawyers, would argue that we discovered the fraud, in December. I think we are poorly paid attorneys who are impatient with us because we never have enough money or something. They will argue that we didn't really know the scope of the fraud. We didn't discover the fraud until well on down the road. But man, this battle could be expensive. That's very good point that Not Legal Advice gives. Maverick Trader. Kitty has 44 million and I'm down 90%. Yeah, I know. I mean, almost wherever you define it, from the high in your account, from the money you put into the account, being down 90% isn't fun. But it's not over with some trades. I wish I saw the trade. I give myself a tiny bit of credit for predicting it, but I didn't have the money, to buy 10 calls, for example, in DJT on Friday for this week or next week. There was $5 or $6 grand to be made in a day. It was so obvious, but I didn't have the money. My point is, Spiny, I just think you have to be. No, I'm not talking to you. I'm really talking to me, I guess. You have to rebuild a nest egg slowly. That's the hardest darn thing. It takes money to make money. And Finger, they're keeping Finger down. GTII actually looks kind of strong. How many Ukrainian children has Russia killed? I mean, if you want to win that battle, Spiny, we can have a nuclear holocaust and you can go to your grave knowing you won that battle. But the fact is, from Bill Clinton onward, we promised not to move NATO closer to Russia. And if you look at history, Russia had Rus, which started in Ukraine and then moved to Moscow, but Russia has been attacked. We, in our history, really haven't been attacked by peoples out of Europe. You can go back to Sweden, Poland, but you can go in our modern history to France and Germany twice. And they're able to go in because there's no natural border between Moscow and Europe. Well, what is the border? The Ukraine, the borderlands. And then up there, it's Poland and the others. Well, Stalin knew that he needed to build a buffer. As the immature Bill Clinton and the arrogant George W. Bush and I don't know what to say about folks, as they took over our unipower, they let warmongers like Kagan and Newland and the New American Century take over our policy. And in fact, we moved NATO closer and closer and closer to Russia. And the Ukraine happens to have 4 or 5 provinces which are Russian speaking and were a part of Russia, as was quite a bit of the Ukraine. Anyway, there was I think it's under the Minsk agreements, there was going to be an election, which we're all for democracy, in those Russian speaking areas. What did Madeline Not So Bright and Victoria Nuland and the UK and NATO? No elections. We, in fact, engineered what might have been a coup. And we put in this corrupt puppet, Zelensky, who's making money off the taxpayer in the billions and billions and billions of dollars. So, Spiny, if you study it, instead of watching CNN, the Ukraine has lost the heart of its youth. 400,000 to 600,000 soldiers obliterated, dead. So you can listen to CNN. Putin, I agree, technically moved in to those provinces. I wish somehow he hadn't. But we were moving, we put bioweapons factories in the Ukraine. We were putting our weapons in Ukraine. We were challenging Russia in their borderland, the Ukraine. So who really stuck the knife in first? But you can have your illusions, and I hope it's worth it when World War III comes, which will be over. So long, mommy, I'm off to drop the bomby, so don't wait up for me while you sit there in swelter. Down there in your shelter, you'll see me on TV. I forget the rest of it. Tom Lehrer. But Spiny, stick to your bumper sticker truth. Stick to CNN. Stick to Richard Maddow. Stick to propaganda, which is on an Orwellian scale, if you want to. I'm not here for that. I'm here for humanity. I'm here for what's right and wrong. I'm here for intelligent, critical thinking discussion. I don't care what Jake Tapeworm says or Richard Maddow says. I don't care. I don't care what the nightmare CIA-funded Jeff Bezos Washington Post says anymore. Used to be the #1 newspaper in the world. Now it's crap. I don't care what the New York Times says anymore, even though they come close to the truth. I think the news out of Israel is more honest than American news. Try reading some of their headlines if you bother. I think the news out of Izvestia and Al Jazeera sometimes can be more truthful than the news which is controlled because of Bill Clinton. He put through the Orwellian Freedom of the Press Act. Read Al Franken's book, Rush Limbaugh is a Big Fat Idiot. And you can read about how Bill Clinton got through, the best Republican politician ever, got through this Orwellian Press Act that allowed conglomerates. It used to be you'd separate newspapers, TV stations, radio stations, and you had to have fair time. If the left had half an hour, the right got half an hour. And you had real journalism, and you had Walter Cronkite and Brinkley and Ted Koppel. Under Bill Clinton, he allowed the agglomeration of the news, and there was no fair time anymore. So it's turned into entertainment. So you have The View. You have that horrible woman on CNN who cuts off a Trump spokesperson. And you're going to have the joke of the CNN debate. All because BlackRock controls the media. BlackRock is one of the plunderers. I actually put this book down because my eyesight makes it really hard for me to read. But I forget which plunderer. Let me go to the beginning chapter. Leverage buyouts, greed is good. Jerome Kohlberg, Henry Kravitz, George Roberts. plunderers. Stanley Sporkin, I don't know if that's a plunderer or that was a lawyer. Apollo Asset, I think that's Leon Black. Blackstone, Schwartzman. I don't know Schwartzman's first name. I'm just kidding. I should take some notes so I can find this quickly. This book is about modern age plunderers, a relatively small group of financiers whose unrelenting pursuit of profits extracts wealth from the many to enrich the few. It's about a business model which is pernicious and growing, and that widens the wealth gap in this country. Apollo, Blackstone. Leon Black and the Art of the Fleece. Anyway, it goes on quite a bit about Leon Black, but there's other players that she talks about in here. And Spiny, one of the biggest is BlackRock. I don't know who runs it. It's one of those guys. There's Citadel, Ken Griffin. And BlackRock controls the media. So if you want to listen to BlackRock's media propaganda, you go ahead. But don't come back to me how many Ukrainian children Russia has killed. Why don't you tell me? All I know is that apparently 2 days ago, the United States of America, from its embassy, put in the launch codes for 5 missiles, which were shot down by Russian anti-missile defense. 4 of them, they got, the 5th one landed, and then our munitions dropped on the beach, wounding hundreds and killing 4 or 5 children. And if you want to dismiss that in an airy, oh, how many have rushed, please go listen to CNN. Go read USA Today. But don't be proud of yourself that you know what you're talking about. Well, I admire that, by the way. I admire that very much. You wore a uniform, and I'll tell you, my dad served, and my dad didn't like some of my views. But one time at Thanksgiving dinner, I asked him, when did the Democratic Party become the party of war? And he didn't have an answer, but in a good way. I loved my father, but he also thought that Putin was a spook and we couldn't trust him. And he was totally anti-Putin, totally. But my father had a trust in the government, which I do not have right now. I do not have it. And I believe, I've told you before, I fully support, it's not about our military. It literally is about a small group of bankers, a small group of right-wing thinkers in our government, and a small group of policymakers that I don't understand where it's coming from. I don't know anyone in the military who has volunteered to go to war with Russia. What the hell? Putin asked this question. Don't you have something better to do with your money? And if you served in the military, which I believe you did, of course, you know that we can't fight a war over with our lines extended. But anyway, I accept that you have far more experience than I do. And I also accept that your wisdom is better than mine. But I still suggest that you can listen to Colonel McGregor. You can listen to Lieutenant Colonel Wilkerson. You can listen to Colonel Karen. Karen, I forget her last name. Karen, I think that is her last name, Karen. You can listen to Wesley Oh, all right. So I don't read magazines, by the way, and I do not like to be dismissed as if I read magazine articles. But whatever. I don't read the newspaper that much anymore because it's all crap. So I get my news. It's a lot more difficult, but I have to listen to people who are in the military, have access to military data, understand our policies. And what the United States is doing right now is shameful. But Spiny, if you want to go to war against Russia, the country which has the largest nuclear weapons reserve, and it has hypersonic missiles, missile defense, high-tech weaponry. Okay, let's do it. Let's rumble. We have an army of 400,000 people. Our army is smaller than what the Ukraine has lost. We have a woke army. We have a woman in charge of recruitment who can't even explain why she's not meeting her numbers. We have too many four-star generals. We cannot produce the missiles and the bullets that Russia can produce. But let's go to war. Let's go to war. Let's go to war with Russia. Oh, by the way, we got to defend Israel too in their land grab, because they're our number one ally in the Middle East, breaking the Abraham Accords, breaking our word like we broke our word with Russia. So let's join in. Let's start a two-front war. Let's go to war in the Middle East. We can kick ass. Let's turn Iran into a radioactive hell. And while we're at it, you know what? China sucks. Let's start a war in Taiwan. What the hell are we thinking? I didn't read any of that in magazines. All right, let me see what you said. We aren't going to agree that we didn't move NATO to the borderlands. Russians annexing Crimea moved the borderlands. Crimea, Catherine the Great, if I remember correctly, let me look it up. Catherine the Great and Crimea. March 4, Smithsonian Magazine, if I can read it. Nearly, and of course the Smithsonian agrees with you. But anyway, let's read some of the history. Nearly 250 years ago, Empress Catherine II the Great attempted to impress the West while ruthlessly enforcing her authority over Russia and the surrounding region. Catherine presented herself to the world as enlightened, but she annexed much of what is now the Ukraine through wars with the Ottoman Empire and the partition of Poland, and brutally suppressed the largest peasant rebellion in Russian history. Anyway, they go on to talk about her. All right, let me get a different article about that. Claiming Crimea. There's a book, Claiming Crimea, A History of Catherine the Great's Southern Empire, written in 2017. Maybe I'll get that. Russia's long-standing claims to Crimea date back to the 18th century reign of Catherine II. Historian Kelly O'Neill has written the first archive-based, multi-dimensional study of the initial quiet conquest of a region that has once again moved to the forefront of international affairs. O'Neill traces the impact of Russian rule on the diverse population of the former Khanate, which included Muslim, Christian, and Jewish residents. She discusses the arduous process of establishing the empire's social, administrative, and cultural institutions in a region that had been governed according to dramatically different logic for centuries. With careful attention to how officials and subjects thought about the spaces they inhabited, O'Neill's work reveals the lasting influence of Crimea and its people on the Russian imperial system and sheds new light on the precarious contemporary relationship between Russia and the former Black Sea Peninsula. Well, that's one reading. That's the same book. The first annexation of Crimea happened in 1784. A decisive moment in the fate of Crimea was the outcome of the Russian-Turkish War, which lasted from 1768 to 1774. Russians had been destabilizing the Crimean Tatars for years, and an overstretched and weakened Ottoman Empire was easily defeated by Russian forces. The peace treaty of Kuchik-Kainarsa brought peace to the region, benefiting Russian interests. Under this treaty, Turkey and Russia agreed to recognize the independence of the Crimean Khanate. Russia was given dominance of the Azov and Kerch ports, allowing the country Russia's direct access to the Black Sea. In addition, Russia gained official status as protector of the Orthodox Christians living in the Ottoman Empire, which 70 years later was used as an excuse to expand its territory southward and eastward, triggering the bloody Crimean War of 1853. The annexation of Crimea by Catherine II. Catherine the Great weighed the advantages and disadvantages of annexing the Crimean Peninsula in violation of the peace treaty of Kuchek. The Turks and the Crimean Tatars had aspirations at taking the entire peninsula, so Russia had to have a presence in the region. Annexing Crimea would lead to a continuous border between the Black and the Azov Seas, which would change the defense strategy of the southern border. Setting the defense of the southern border in Crimea would strengthen Russia's influence in the Black Sea. It would allow Russia the power to monitor the mouths of the Danube and Dnieper rivers. Another benefit was that the Black Sea had no restrictions on the size and tonnage of vessels, unlike the Dnieper estuary, which could be blocked at any time by Turkish fleets. A Black Sea fleet would keep the Ottoman Empire in check. Establishing a port in the Black Sea was strategically important for Russia, as most of its ports freeze in the winter, and was essential for trading and to support a strong navy. Catherine was determined to continue her territorial expansion, and preparations for annexation started over a year before the final annexation took place in December 1782. She ordered the Foreign Affairs Board to start diplomatic work with European powers such as Britain, France, Austria, and Sardinia. Concluding that Russian ports would feel threatened by the Ottoman Empire, Catherine the Great issued a manifesto on April 1783, justifying the annexation of Crimea to the Russian Empire. The final documents were signed February 2nd, 1784. European countries ultimately accepted the appropriation of the Crimean territory, and it was considered a huge success of Russia's foreign policy. The Treaty of Constantinople in 1784 ceded the Crimean Peninsula to the Russian Empire. In order to secure its borders, Catherine the Great gave orders to build the fortress of Sevastopol and the Black Sea Fleet. The construction of the Black Sea Fleet was given to Prince Gregory Potemkin. So anyway, if you want to relitigate history, and if you think the United States should go in and right the wrongs on behalf of the Ottoman Empire and free the Crimea, I guess that's our job. I guess that's our job. Council of Foreign Relations. I'm sure they're going to be quite liberal. Ukraine has long played an important yet sometimes overlooked role in the global security order. Today, the country is on the front lines of a renewed great power rivalry which many analysts say will dominate international relations in the decades ahead. Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, after we did not allow the Minsk Accords to have a election as we agreed. But hey, it marked a dramatic escalation of the 8-year-old conflict, which began with Russia's annexation of Crimea and signified a historic turning point for European security. A year after the fighting began, many defense and foreign policy analysts cast the war as a major strategic blunder by Putin. Ukraine was a cornerstone of the Soviet Union. Behind only Russia, it was the second most populous and powerful of the 15 Soviet republics, home to much of the Union's agricultural production, defense industries, military, including the Black Sea Fleet. Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev transferred Crimea from Russia to Ukraine in 1954 to strengthen the brotherly ties between the Ukrainian and Russian peoples. However, since the fall of the Soviet Union, many Russian nationalists in both Russia and Crimea longed for a return of the peninsula. What triggered Russia's moves in Crimea and the Donbass in 2014? In late 2013, President Yanukovych, acting under pressure from his supporters in Moscow, scrapped plans to formalize a closer economic relationship with the EU. Russia had at the same time been pressing Ukraine to join the not yet formed EAEU. Many Ukrainians perceived Yanukovych's decision as a betrayal by a deeply corrupt and incompetent government. It ignited countrywide protests. Putin framed the ensuing tumult, which forced Yanukovych from power, as a Russian-backed fascist coup, which endangered the ethnic majority in Crimea. Western leaders dismissed this as baseless propaganda. Why did Russia launch a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022? Some Western analysts see Russia's invasion as the accumulation of Kremlin's growing resentment toward NATO's post-Cold War expansion into the former Soviet sphere of influence. Russian leaders, including Putin, have alleged that the United States and NATO repeatedly violated pledges they made in the early 1990s not to expand the alliance into the former Soviet bloc. In the weeks leading up to NATO's 2008 summit, President Putin warned U.S. diplomats that steps to bring Ukraine into the alliance would be a hostile act toward Russia. Months later, Russia went to war with Georgia, seemingly showcasing Putin's willingness to use force to secure Russia's interests. Despite remaining a non-member, Ukraine grew its ties with NATO in the years leading up to the 2022 invasion. Ukraine held annual military exercises with the alliance, and in 2020 became one of just 6 enhanced opportunity partners, a special status for NATO's closest non-member allies. Moreover, Kiev affirmed its goal of eventually joining full NATO membership. In the weeks leading up to its invasion, Russia made several major security demands of the United States. Cease expanding the alliance, seek Russian consent for NATO deployments, and remove U.S. nuclear weapons from Europe. Well, I'm going to try to find something that isn't quite so scholarly. That supported you. There's a lot of stuff there, but what is the Minsk Agreement? French President Emmanuel Macron has pointed to the 2015 Minsk Agreement between Kiev and Moscow as the blueprint for a breakthrough. The Minsk II agreement, which was aimed at ending the war in eastern Ukraine, is the only path on which peace can be built. Minsk I. Ukraine and the Russia-backed separatists agreed on a 12-point ceasefire deal in 2014. It included prisoner exchanges, deliveries of humanitarian aid, withdrawal of heavy weapons. It quickly broke down. They don't say why. Minsk II. Ceasefire, withdrawal of heavy weapons, pardons, humanitarian assistance, restore control of the state border to Ukraine. Elections in Donetsk and Luhansk. All right, I'm going to finish with, did Bill Clinton promise to not move NATO closer to Russia? So Bill Clinton says he did not make that promise, but he did expand NATO against Russians Russian objections. Hello? Yeah, I'm going to sign off. Do you want to go on? Well, let me, I got to get the speaker on.
Battery 40%.
All right, you're on. No, you're not. Hang on. Now you're on.
Hold on a second. Hey, William, I'm sorry, everybody. I was just telling the local, whatever they are, to cut these weeds down. I'm allergic to poison ivy, so I can't touch it. Anyway, you can see FingerMotion, when I walked out, it was 265 bid for the 25,000 again. We're in the splash zone again for the wash trade. You can see the volume will soon explode to 100,000. It's 70 something thousand now, so you can actually, you can see them actually doing what they're doing. Am I correct, William?
Yeah.
I can't see what this.
Yeah.
So I put up the definition of a wash trade. It's a criminal. It puts false information into the marketplace. But John Bird is the bad guy. And I'm showing you the crime. They're doing it right in front of us. We're not guessing. It's not 2 years ago. It's going to happen in 10 minutes. It's going to happen. It didn't even happen yet. And I'm telling you, they're doing it. And the reason they're watching trades is to buy more settlement time or move shorts around from one account to the other. And it's right there, right in front of you. Again, this is in real time. It's nothing else but that. All right. One person yelled at me when I got the phone about GameStop. Why am I talking it down? I'm not talking it down. I'm just trying to tell people, pay attention to what you're doing. Wall Street doesn't give a flying fuck about you. You got to educate yourself and be on the ball about it. When the company sold his shares, he sold out the shareholders, including Roaring Kitty, who's a knucklehead. Anybody lets that much money disappear is insane. All right. He can write 1,000 books about him. He's never going to make $500 million again. All right. So again, be careful what you're doing. Read the information in front of you before you invest. Me, William, we post as much information as possible to help you out. We don't control the fraud. It's right in front of us. What would you like us to do? I can't stop the wash trades. It didn't even happen yet. I'm telling you that they're going to do it. They're going to rob the bank. I'm being the stool pigeon to rat out the bank robbers, and no one does anything about it. William, I'm going to reach out to a few people, and I'm going to try to get that money together so we get the fuck out of here and go to South Korea. Because I think South Korea, will jump at this idea of being able to spit on the USA.
Yeah, it'd be great to go do something. Just be in action.
Yeah, no, I'm going to work hard and finish this thing out, get the stupid money so that we can travel and not be concerned and eating out of a garbage pail. I can't afford to throw it out the window. You can't afford it either. So we have to do something, but we need to go. The opportunity is so great. It's right in front of us. It's worth billions of dollars. For those of you that don't understand it, just Google how much is the Milan exchange worth, or the exchange in India, or whatever country it may be. Go look at the small exchanges and see how much they're worth, the value. Imagine getting hundreds and 1,000 companies to leave the U.S. to go to a foreign land where everything is just basically done on a trading platform anyway. It doesn't make a difference what country you're in. We need to have a regulator that regulates, not one that stands there with a patch over both his eyes and can't see anything. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And again, for them to make a statement to waste, I read it again. John Berta issued a special dividend, a preferred share, because that he thought that it would expose the shorts. Well, that's what it does. Obviously, there's a short that's got a problem, and he could tell people about it. We tell people about it all. I actually sent it. We actually had it on the truck at the SEC. A special dividend to sign. Issue a special dividend, stops the music, exposes the shorts. We said it 1,000 times for the last how many years?
Yeah.
But they're going after John Berta because it actually worked and he caught them. It's not his problem that there's shorts in here. What is John supposed to do? Tell his shareholders, hey, we know we're being defrauded, but we have to keep our mouth closed. We can't do anything. Our family, our friends, you guys all have to lose money because we can't say anything or do anything to fight back. Think about that. What a disgusting thing today. The SEC is shooting the messengers, not the crooks. Savvy management should be on a telephone pole hanging upside down. He sent a naked short selling scheme. He owns a $10 million condo on Fisher Island. Who knows how much more he sold with Lynn Partners, these criminals, and they're walking around not nothing. They got a parking ticket. And it's a naked short selling scheme. And he got away with it. Crime does pay. John Berta was fighting crime and they're torturing him. It's ridiculous. I don't care if John Berta could be fucking Attila the Hun. I'm with him. Because he did the right thing. He tried to fight for shareholders, and he did. His shareholders in Torchlight won out at the end. He gave out a dividend. He's not the one that made it start trading an MMTOP. He had nothing to do with that. If John Berta filed to get that trading, then shame on him. But he didn't do it. It was the guy from GTS. Whatever guy,
Rubenstein, he's talking before Congress right now.
Right, he's the one
I
that
think
got
it's Rubenstein, if I'm
right.
wrong.
He's the one that works for GTS. He did it. Why isn't he being hung? Why did you make this thing trade? Why did you give it fake information? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Nothing. Now let's go after John Berta. This all started because of John Berta. It's ridiculous. They're trying to get the MMT people to break apart. That's all they're trying to do. They want everybody to give up, shut your mouths. That's what they want. Time is the killer of all deals. We always say that. I had something else to tell you, William, but I completely forgot.
Time wounds all heals. My grandmother used
And
to tell me.
the guy from the Florida Panthers who just won the Stanley Cup using stolen money to buy an NHL franchise. He's the chairman of Virtue, total scumbag, stealing money, torturing public companies for his own personal gain. And he bought a hockey team and he was rewarded. Crime pays. We should all become short sellers. Just go out there, let's pick a stock, and everybody just post all day that the CEO was caught molesting little boys. Ruined the guy's life. No one cares. Who cares? We'll buy puts, the stock will go down, everybody make themselves $100,000, and we'll go find some other CEO and destroy them. Why not? The SEC's telling us to do it. They're begging us to do it, not telling us. And William, did the FingerMotion trade go off yet? The 266 trade, the 265? I forgot the numbers.
Gotta just type it in again. Oh. Yeah, I was looking at other quotes. Last trade 265, 77,220, 250, no, 25,400 by 200, 265 by 267.
So they just crossed 5,000 more at 265, and the bid is still there. So they're selling 5,000 shares. The bid is still there. Tells me that, you know, the buyer is bigger, and they're just trying to do it in pieces. They know we are watching them because I post it every 2 minutes. And the reason I post it, William, and anybody who's listening, is because it's all proof for a trial. If anyone wants to go over the data, I'm posting it right there, all the criminal offenses. If anyone ever wants to say anything, okay, on this date, who watched all these trades? Get the buyer and the seller. Let's see who they are. Follow that paper trail from one person to the other.
77, it's not trading while you're talking.
Yeah, it hasn't traded in a while. It was 70, yeah, I think it was 77 before, but they crossed some more. I always told you all the trades with 25,000 shares on the bid, all the trades are at 265.
Right.
No one hits the bid when you see it for 25,000 shares, if it's real. So these guys are just selling stock to themselves, creating the illusion that they're sellers. Hurry up, hit the bid. Come on, William, sell your 10,000 shares, hit the bid so that you can create the tumble. That's all they're looking for, but no one's selling it. The company's got a $5 target by benchmark. That was 2 years ago, $5 target. The company's twice as big now, and it should be upgraded, but it has a minimum target of 5. Who's selling it at 265? Nobody. Look at DJT. They bashed it down to 24. Now it's back up to 36 again. Those aren't normal swings in a stock. What did the company say to do to make a stock go down and up like that? Nothing. AMC, they're dragging that down to the price they did the secondary, which I think is 375. That CEO has been a total dirtbag for a while.
Popcorn.
He's selling popcorn. All of a sudden, he's a genius. He's making the best popcorn in the world. KNW has a toxic note that has unlimited shares that can be delivered to Lynn Partners. The lower it goes, the more shares they get. That CEO belongs in jail for telling people to buy the stock with that note overhanging the stock. He's just murdering his friends, family, anybody he knows. Just read the note. The thing is right there. Everybody knows it. Lynn Partners, every one of their investments is going straight down, and yet they're up 220%. Does anyone want to address that one? How do we know that? Because the investor in Lynn's fund, that guy Hancock from Australia, told everybody. He was nice enough to brag. That's what I wanted to talk about, William. I watched The Big Short again last night for the 50th time. Just change it from, shorting the housing market to being long FingerMotion, for example. I know I'm right. I'm early. Getting in early, I have to suffer like they did. They dealt with the rating agencies lying. They dealt with this, all the kind of trash they had to live with. Goldman Sachs charging these guys all kinds of premiums based on false pricing. They were stealing from these guys. Never changing the prices, they quoted on it. It's just like what's going on in our stock. They keep moving the stock down so they don't get a margin call, right? That's why those housing bonds, that's why they never changed the pricing, because otherwise they didn't have to pay the margin, those guys, because the prices would have went in the money. It's the same thing. He got paid to wait, and then he made $2.5 billion on his investment. And just think about those kids in the movie. They shorted the AAA like everybody else did, but they also shorted the AA, which paid out 200 to 1. That is equivalent buying the 40 calls in DJT. You're putting up a little money to make a big return. That's why buying cheap calls is sometimes the best place to be. All right, because you get bigger returns with the cheaper options. If the stock continues to go, that's where you make the most money. It's the same thing. The whole story is the same thing, only it's housing bonds versus stocks. And there they are, those guys. What are they bragging about? He said, what did he say? Oh, whatever, they were laughing. He goes, what are they doing? He said, they're bragging. That's how stupid this whole thing is. They're bragging about the money. Can you imagine the Kramers, what they must be telling people? Oh, we keep stealing, no one stops us. Our lawyers protect us. We make 10 million, we pay 3 million to the lawyers, we walk away with 7. It's free money. That's what they're saying. Any other questions, William?
Not really. GME's down to $23. What about T-low hits a new low?
I forgot to get the data for us. I'll get that. When I hang up, I'll try to get it.
Let me see where it's trading. 492.
518.
492.
Oh, they knocked it below again. It's just remarkable. DJT 3641. And they just had it down below 34. So in DJT now, the trade is reversed. Now it's buy the dip, sell the rip. That's what it looks like to me now. In NVIDIA, they got this thing all over the place. It looks to me like NVIDIA is sell the rip and you buy the dip now. It's the opposite way. It's a short. Everyone's starting to come out of it. So when you get these big spikes up, maybe you look at it, you sell one share short to learn how to do it, see how it works out for you. But learn the trading pattern. GameStop, what would I do? First of all, I don't believe that there's going to be a gamma squeeze. I just don't think they could do it. I think the hedge funds have moved on. They're doing other things. But if I wanted to do anything, anytime the people pump it up, you sell it short. But they know it's a dangerous game. Because if it does work, you get killed. But just paper trade it, write it down. Say, okay, if it gets to 24, 25 area, maybe I'll take a shot and I'll write it down. I'm going to sell 2,000 short at 24.78. It pops to 25. 2 days later, it's 23. You can mark it down. You covered, and you can make money and see how to learn how to trade. Paper trade, make believe trade. Anything else? But watch The Big Short, everybody. It's the same thing. We're getting paid because we got in early. And you don't think we're going to win? I believe we are going to win. I think we've done our due diligence, and I think the company's on our side. And the SEC is telling you that a special dividend forces the shorts to cover. Remember, it's musical chairs. How many times did I post musical chairs about a dividend, William? That stupid lady singing that song, I had to post it to insult everybody. Stop the music. Everyone needs a certificate to match their name. That's the concept. What happens when they don't? You get a torchlight when they got squeezed, and John Burden and the company raised $130 million, just like GameStop did on the short squeeze, right? I just washed my baseball cap, William. It had, stains from sweat, I guess, of being outside. I washed it, put it on the back patio, and it dried up, and it's perfect.
Well, at least you got that done today.
I got that done today. I'm very excited about it. Anyway, people keep an eye on the watch trade. I put it up. It's a criminal offense. That's why I keep posting it, because it is a fraud, and you're watching it. You're watching the crime. I reported it to the SEC. What else can I possibly do? I can't stop them from doing this. That's like me and William selling stock back and forth to each other. Hey, wait a second. We're going to be penny stock promoters. Let's wash trades back and forth to create volume and to create a buzz about the stock on this fake volume. Wow, sounds like the same thing the shorts are doing. But yet they don't go after them.
KYP says hello to you.
I hope she's doing well.
Galadon thanks you. He just sold his September 30 calls for 150% profit in DJT. He
nice.
says you called the spike dead on. And
But other people call me a fucking jerk off because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm only doing it fucking, I don't know how many years, 35 years now trading. Trained by the best. Yelled at, pissed on, cursed at by the best. I guess that's my battle scars. And if you didn't learn it, they would never even talk to you. I'm talking about the top of the game. People you see on TV. I dealt with all of them. It wasn't fun, but you made a lot of money. It was, you know, they were brutal. When you were off on something, you got destroyed. But if you were a good broker, you always got paid. You know what it was to get William? Get 12 cents on a trade, selling 1 million shares of stock? Think about that, how much money that is. No risk. 120,000.
So what do you do, son, for a living?
My mother used to say that. What do you do all day? I tried to explain it. She never understood it. And for those who don't pay attention, the College World was great last night. The Link Cup was very good. If you followed sports, both tremendous events, and they both ended. And pretty soon football's coming up. So, but William, I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to get us the money, and we're going to get out of here. And we're going to go to Abu Dhabi. We're going to do we're going to do Asia, and we're going to stop in Hong Kong. I have a big client there. I think I can close him for a couple of $100,000 there. But we have to get there. This, you know, people, you don't understand. Raising money, it's out of sight, out of mind. You have to get in front of people. That's just the way it is. And everything's so expensive, you know. Unless me and William bring our GE refrigerator box and sleep on a corner, we need money to travel, and it's not cheap. All right, I'm gonna let you guys go on that. I'm sorry I've been fired up all day. I've been going since 5:30 this morning, ready to go.
I know, you're amazing.
Nah, just listen, it's just my personality. I'm trying to help everybody as best I can. I wish someone would give me a gun and a badge. I end this thing in 5 minutes with my friends. 5 minutes. We've chasing short sellers down Broadway. Watch how fast we round them up. We tie them to that bull. That's the first thing we do. We tie them up to that bull, then we throw baseballs at them all day. That's what we're going to do. Or I can hit them with pickleballs, either one. Anyway, listen, everyone, have a great day. They're disgusting creeps, these people. Don't listen to the bashers. They're here to steal your money. The whole thing is a crime family between the short, the store, the bashers. It's disgusting. I don't even know what to say anymore. I've been doing this a long time. And the only reason I don't quit is because I have friends, family, and people like yourself who I don't even know. I'm trying to help out. And I'm glad everybody's paying attention. And I'm not here trying to pump a stock or do this. I don't really give a shit if you buy it or not. But if you don't educate yourself, you're going to get ripped off. And you're going to lose. You're not going to lose $1,000. You're going to put 10, 20 into something because you think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And they're going to tear your eyes out. Look at the poor bastards in KNW at 90 cents. Oh, the guy's he raised money. He's going to do everything. Yeah, stock's 45 cents now. So if you had 10,000 invested, you're down to 5 already. And Lynn Partners is happily selling stock to you, and they're going to convert it and buy it back at a penny. That's what they're going to do and make millions of dollars. Their investment's going to go to zero, but yet they're going to be up 120% of faraway land. It's easy to steal and defraud people. How do they do it? You know what? I'll have respect for them if they stood in front of us and say, hey, man, we're going to steal your money. Have the balls to do that. They don't have the balls to do that. They just steal your money and hide behind the keyboard and then try to piss on us. That's what you're going against. These guys are all cowards. Stand up and tell us to our face that they're going to steal our money. Do it that way. Don't be a coward. All right, William, you got me all riled up again. I'm trying to calm down. Rile me up. You're awful, William. You get me all riled up.
All right, we'll get there.
All right, keep an eye on that wash trade. If you see a trade, just jot it down in case I don't see it.
All right, I will.
Thank you.
Call ended.
I'm going to quickly, for Spiny, I'm going to quickly sign off with this article's December 2017, NATO expansion, what Gorbachev heard. U.S. Secretary of State James Baker's famous quote, not 1 inch eastward, unquote, assurance about NATO expansion in his meeting with Mikhail Gorbachev in 1990 was part of a cascade of assurances about Soviet security given by Western leaders to Gorbachev and other Soviet officials throughout the process of German unification in 1990 and 91, according to declassified documents at the National Security Archive at George Washington University. The documents show that multiple national leaders were considering and rejecting Central and Eastern European membership in NATO. Soviet and Russian complaints about being misled about NATO expansion were founded in written contemporaneous memocons, telcons at the highest levels. The documents reinforce former CIA Director Robert Gates's criticism of, quote, pressing ahead with expansion of NATO eastward when Gorbachev and others were led to believe that it wouldn't happen, unquote. President George H.W. Bush assured Gorbachev during the Malta summit in '89 that the United States would not take advantage. Quote, I have not jumped up and down on the Berlin Wall, unquote, not take advantage of the revolutions in Eastern Europe to harm Soviet interests. The first concrete assurances by Western leaders on NATO began in January 31, 1990, when West German Foreign Minister Hans Dietrich Genscher opened the bidding with a major public speech in Bavaria. He said that changes in Eastern Europe and the German unification process must not lead to an impairment of Soviet security interests. Therefore, NATO should rule out, quote, expansion of its territory toward the east, i.e., moving it closer to the Soviet borders, unquote. This formula immediately became the center of a flurry of important diplomatic discussions. The conversations before Kohl's assurance involved explicit discussion of NATO expansion. The Kohl achieved Soviet assent in principle to German unification in NATO as long as NATO did not expand to the east. They said Poland wouldn't join. Not once, but 3 times, Baker tried out the, quote, not 1 inch eastward, unquote, formula with Gorbachev. Baker agreed with Gorbachev's statement that, quote, NATO expansion is unacceptable, unquote. Baker assured Gorbachev, quote, that neither the president nor I intend to extract any unilateral advantages from the processes that are taking place, unquote. The Americans understood, quote, not only for the Soviet Union, but for other European countries as well, it is important to have guarantees that if the United States keeps its presence in Germany within the framework of NATO, not an inch of NATO's present military jurisdiction will spread in an eastern direction, unquote. Afterwards, Baker wrote Helmut Kohl. Baker reported, quote, "And then I put the following question to Gorbachev. Would you prefer to see a united Germany outside NATO, independent and with no US forces? Or would you prefer a unified Germany be tied to NATO with assurances that NATO's jurisdiction would not shift 1 inch eastward from its present position?" He answered that the Soviet leadership was giving thought. He then added, certainly, any expansion of the zone of NATO would be unacceptable. Baker added, by implication, NATO in its current zone might be acceptable. They go on to describe other Baker conversations. In Washington in May of 1990, at a summit, Bush went out of his way to assure Gorbachev that Germany and NATO would never be directed at the USSR. Quote, Bush quote, "Believe me, we are not pushing Germany towards unification, and it is not us who determines the pace of the process. And of course, we have no intention, even in our thoughts, to harm the Soviet Union in any fashion. That is why we are speaking in favor of German unification in NATO without ignoring the wider context of the CSCE, taking traditional economic ties between two German states in consideration." The Iron Lady, Thatcher, also pitched in. Thatcher said to Gorbachev, "We must find ways to give the Soviet Union confidence that its security would be assured." Bush, quote, "Our invitation," this is to Gorbachev, he invited Gorbachev to join NATO. Of course, that went nowhere. The documents show that Gorbachev agreed to German unification in NATO as the result of this cascade of assurances. I skipped so many of them. And on the basis of his analysis, that the future of Soviet Union depended on Soviet integration into Europe. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. We missed a tremendous opportunity to be friends of Russia. And Hillary Clinton lost an election. Now we're on the verge of nuclear war. And I don't see any benefit, whether we're right or wrong, to the planet, to having nuclear war. And I hope it doesn't happen. Warrants make sense. If DJT has warrants, that's a nice trade. But I bet it has a lot of premium. I'll take a small credit on DJT because last week I predicted it would snap back, but it hasn't gone anywhere as high as I said. I think it's going to go to 52. If it breaks through there, it'll go to 100. And oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. They're just trying to destroy the credibility of us, the credibility of the CEO, and protect the criminals. I still continue to believe what we can each do to make money. I've completely lowered my expectations of profit in this trade of NextBridge. But you know, if it could go to $200 a share, I hope it's higher than that. But it makes my time and effort worthwhile. I hope it goes to 500 or 600 or 1,000. But I think realistically, these guys bring such strength. They've corrupted the government, corrupted the regulatory system. They bribe people. They bribe people. They threaten, and they win. I think as a investor, the way to beat this particular system is don't leave your money in the hands of the broker dealer where you're entitled to receive shares. Go get your shares. Take the doubt away. You're entitled to them. Go get them. And when they can't do it anymore, then we'll have to fight them in the courts and on the beaches, on the landing yards. We shall never surrender. All I can promise you is tears, sweat, and blood. However he said it. Whatever. I hope we win the war. That'll make me proud. We can go vaporize parts of the Soviet Union. It'll make me proud. Because Putin, he's the one. He invaded the Ukraine. And let's gung-ho. Let's go bomb the crap out of the Soviet Union. It's just a gas station. It's just a small backwards economy with a gas station. It's smaller than Poland, smaller than California. Let's go get the sons of bitches. All right. Hey, Donna, I'm going to sign out. It's 2:09. I'm going to go try to get some lunch, and we'll catch each other later. I'm sorry this is such a slog. I really am. This is something you can do. You don't have to, but it's something you can do. So peace, love, and happiness to each of you, even to people I disagree with, because I admire your points of view. But we'll leave it there. Have a blessed evening, and we'll catch you tomorrow.